I'd imagine that it's probably bad enough to get a tattoo that you regret in the first place without having it blasted all over news headlines. I feel like that's like rubbing in the one thing that you want to ignore as much as like the dishes piling up in your sink just directly into your face, you know? Like, gee, thanks for reminding me that I made that decision. Yeah, I really needed to be told again. I mean, I guess it's like picture stumbling across your own tattoo in a Bad Tattoos Facebook group, except the Facebook group contains everybody ever born onto this planet that is still living. And so now word of your awful tattoo has become global news. That is the unfortunate reality for celebrities like Justin Bieber with his Selena Gomez tattoo, which is not convincingly a Selena Gomez tattoo. Like, tell me seriously, who is that? Or, you know, Zayn Malik with his tattoo of Perry Edwards. Yeah, that's gotta suck. And then, of course, there was, like, all of the tattoos that Ariana Grande got for Pete Davidson, all of the tattoos that Pete Davidson got for Ariana Grande, and also Kim Kardashian. You get the picture, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, there's lots of regrets. There are lots of painful public regrets in the celebrity world. But not every regrettable tattoo. I'm saying regrettable because it's like regrettable, you know, the no regrets tattoo. Yeah, I'm so trendy and funny. This is 2010, right? We're in 2010? Yeah, okay. What was I saying? I was saying that not every regrettable tattoo has that sort of like heartbreaking backstory or some kind of like gut-wrenching emotional attachment. Most of them have an element of stupidity, and that's probably about as much as they have in common with those partner tattoos that we just spoke about. Which I think is a great segue for me to say that today we're going to be unpacking the unfortunate tale of Ariana Grande, who just wanted to get a cutesy little hand tattoo to commemorate her song 7 Rings, and apparently ended up with a tiny charcoal grill etched into her palm in kanji instead. Which, this story just fascinated me from the moment it hit headlines, because I was like, I mean, in my mind, right, your body is the last place that you want a typo to live, no? Like, surely you double check the thing that you're about to advertise on your flesh suit eternally just to make sure that it was all fine and dandy before going ahead with it. No? Well, yeah, I guess no. Some people don't do that. And so we're gonna dig into this a little bit. How did Tiny Charcoal Grill become a statement piece on Ariana Grande's palm? I want to know the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, the how of Ariana Grande's palm tattoo blunder. And before you ask, no, there's no reason. This is just for fun. This is my idea of a good time, okay? But to answer a couple of frequently asked questions, my accent is a Kiwi accent. I'm from New Zealand. And secondly, my background in this video, even more chaotic than usual. We are currently in the process of moving, and I'm sure you know how that goes, so forgive me. But now let me set the scene for you. Let's begin our deep dive. So imagine it's 2019 that we're in, which doesn't feel like that long ago. I know, I acknowledge that. But if you want to feel old, then just let me tell you this. A child born in 2019, they can walk, talk, and attend school right now, right here, right now in 2025. Let that sink in. Yeah, I wish I was lying to you. But if we place ourselves back into 2019, we were sweet summer children still. The word pandemic was primarily associated with like the bubonic plague. Baby Yoda was dominating memes and merchandise everywhere. Good as Hell by Lizzo was playing on the radio every time you tuned in, without fail. And egg. It was the year of the world record egg. Unforgettable year, right? And while all of that was going on, the chaos that was 2019, Ariana Grande was just out there trucking along in her career as a pop girlie. So on the 8th of February 2019, Ariana released her 5th studio album. It was entitled Thank You Next, and it sort of encapsulated a point in her journey of healing from the tumultuous years prior. They'd brought Ariana a lot of hurt and a lot of loss, and she was sort of recovering from that. And so this era in Ariana Grande's career, it sort of saw her publicly leaning into her friendships and also working to regain her love for and her confidence in herself. That's kind of what was going on, and that vibe really shines through in the songs that she and her team picked to be singles from her album that year, which included Thank You Next and also 7 Rings. So 7 Rings was released on the 18th of January 2019, you know, obviously pre-album release. And it was basically a song about Ariana Grande smothering her trauma with her riches and letting her friends, or her bitches, in on the action, you know. And inspiration for the song was heavily drawn from My Favorite Things, from The Sound of Music, of course. So brown paper packages tied up with strings, these are a few of my favorite things, became lashes and diamonds, ATM machines. Buy myself all of my favorite things. Buying an ATM ATM machine seems like an awfully excessive, like cumbersome purchase. No, but maybe I just don't have enough money to understand. Like, I guess it would be a good place to store it. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that Seven Rings sampled my favorite things. And it did so at the expense of Ariana having to agree to give up 90% of the songwriting royalties to the estate of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II. But that clearly was worth it for Ariana because she and her team accepted that number without hesitation. They said, oh, only 90%? I'm in. And they chose, obviously, to release the song as a single, regardless. And I think the song probably was important to Ariana in some kind of way, or special in some kind of way, because it was kind of a callback to her musical theatre roots. Because, of course, it's pretty much public knowledge now that Ariana Grande is a grown-up theatre kid, and a passionate one at that. We know that because it was inescapable for some time.
We are Glinda the Good.
Oh my God, thank you. I love her so much. I'm going to take such good care of her. Thank you so much.
And I am so grateful for the ways in which this experience led me back.
In what ways the person sitting next to you changed you for good?
Oh,
You
man.
are very good. You are very good.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, my assumption is that she was probably pretty happy to have the song out there, regardless of how much money she was making from it or not. Or not? Girl, I don't know. Sometimes I start a sentence, by the end of it, I can't remember what I've been saying. But anyway, Theodore S. Chapin, was that his name? It was the guy that engaged in the arrangement of the royalties for the song with Ariana's team. He was pretty chuffed with it as well, which I just thought was quite fun. So there was a New York Times article about this whole situation. It read, he was initially taken aback by Ms. Grande's song, but he quickly saw its value as a reinterpretation and as a way of keeping the original's legacy alive among Ms. Grande's young fans. He also thought that Mary Rodgers, Richard Rodgers' composer daughter, who died in 2014, quote, would have thought, this is pretty kick-ass. I like you, Mary. But despite the glowing enthusiasm from both sides, it was a bit of a weird dichotomy, admittedly, to hear Ariana Grande sing rapping about buying her hair and her receipts looking like phone numbers and buying matching diamonds for 6 of her bitches over top of an instrumental that had been pulled from The Sound of Music. And so for some, the song sort of took a while to catch on, and for others, the song never did catch on. I noted that a lot of Ariana Grande's fans that I saw speaking about the song upon its release were sort of unimpressed from the jump. A lot of them did sort of come back and they were like, I've warmed up to it. Some not. No. But outside of her fan base, the general consensus from like critical, I guess, pop music consumers was that the song, yes, was catchy, but it was also a bit tone deaf. I saw a lot of the discussion in the Reddit thread. It was 7 Rings 1 Week Later is what it was called. Someone commented, this was like the top comment, it said, it feels like a song full of white girl shopping at the clearance section in Forever 21 Instagram captions, which is brutal. Very much a sign of its time. But then another one, they had a more deep criticism, I suppose. And they said, I still am not a huge fan of the song because as an Ariana stan that has been closely watching what she's been going through, it feels phony. It's kind of just a sad projection of I'm fine, thanks. As well as a tone-deaf, by-the-numbers recreation of black music by a wealthy white artist who arguably already benefits from her proximity to blackness. And this was, I don't know if you remember, but it was the era of Ariana Grande being very, very, like, darkly tan. And so there was conversation floating around about Ariana Grande blackfishing was the term I saw. And so that was definitely a point of contention for some, where they were like, oh, look at her really dipping her toes in this water. But now I've noticed it's kind of looked back on as being a kind of iconic and very quotable song from what I could gather from like recent threads online and stuff like that. I guess lines like, whoever said money can't solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve them have stood the test of time remarkably well, funnily enough. And the song just seems to resonate with people on like a deep, possibly unintentional level. Like there's someone said, you don't have to be crazy rich to internalize the I want it, I got it bit. Sometimes the chant would loop in my mind when I bought myself some nerd ropes at the gas station. Luxury comes in many forms, which is so empowering. Thank you, Reddit user. A necessary reminder for us all, I think. And then there were other people saying that they believed that the song was never intended to be taken seriously. Someone said the whole song has an undertone of trying to fill the void with material stuff and shopping through the pain, basically, because that's what the shopping spree was. I don't think she was ever serious about it being an actual cute anecdote. And then another shared their interpretation. They said there's a performance from that period where she sang the line, happiness is the same price as red bottoms, and then she adds, just kidding. So you could definitely dig into the song 7 Rings deeper and come to a variety of conclusions if you were so inclined to, but in the end, a lot of people aren't. You know, it's catchy, and I think that's what so many pop listeners were drawn to. Like, not everybody is a conscious pop listener. Not everybody even knows the faces behind the voices that they're listening to, and they don't want to. Some people, as Katy Perry so eloquently put it, are just chained to the rhythm. Just dancing to the distortion. I feel like I should make it a challenge for myself to like loop Katy Perry into every single topic that I speak about, because she just keeps coming up. I don't know why she keeps coming into my mind. She's like imprinted herself onto me somehow. I don't know where this came from. But basically what I'm saying is that some pop music listeners, some people in general, they just hear a bop and they like it, they want it, they got it, yeah. So, as the original poster of the Reddit thread that I mentioned shared, Seven Rings had reached #1 on Spotify just 1 week following its release. So, in spite of its controversies and the split opinions surrounding the song, Seven Rings was a huge commercial success for Ariana Grande. I mean, the music video has amassed over 1.5 billion views, which is whopping. The song spent months on top of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It received a Grammy nomination for Record of the Year. It won a Teen Choice Award in the Choice Song Female Artist category. Yeah, it did big things, big numbers. And we kind of touched on how Ariana Grande had sort of been through the ringer in the years leading up to 2019. Like, trauma had done a number on the poor girl's brain. It sounded at times like her sanity was holding on by a thread from the way that she spoke about it at the time and speaks about it now. I don't know, Ariana Grande, she was dealing with intense grief and anxiety and depression and PTSD. By her own account, she was at the lowest point in her life around these years. She was taking antidepressants and drinking and not eating well, like just was not taking care of herself and not feeling like she wanted to, not feeling good. She actually spoke to The Hollywood Reporter about it recently on their podcast, and she said, I was doing so much therapy, and I was, of course, treating it very seriously, but having music be a part of that remedy was absolutely contributing to saving my life. They were dark times, and the music brought so much levity, and so did the experience. It felt really healing and freeing. It was just such a beautiful moment of connection. So with all of that considered, her mental state at the time and everything included, the success of Ariana's hit singles, including Seven Rings in 2019, was most definitely a cause of celebration for her. But I guess that all she could afford after signing over like all of the royalties from Seven Rings to other people's estates was a little celebratory tattoo. And so that is exactly what she got. Ariana Grande got a little tattoo as a treat. So nearly 2 weeks after the release of the song, which is an awfully short time to make such a big commitment, Ariana Grande got an itsy bitsy tattoo on the palm of her hand that read Seven Rings in kanji. Or so she thought. Upon unveiling her tattoo near the end of January, Ariana was quickly informed that somewhere along the way, her original message had been lost, because her tattoo, meant to commemorate her hit song Seven Rings, actually said this, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I'm going to say it wrong.
Shichirin.
Yes, so that is a small Japanese charcoal grill. It is just on the palm of her hand now. So apparently it's what us English speakers might know as being a hibachi grill, even though they are not really the same thing at all. But here you can see a photo of a
Shichirin.
filled with charcoal. There's another one of it grilling sausages, doing some awesome work, really cute, but not quite ideal for Ariana's intents and purposes, I don't think. Now, we are going to get into the internet's response to this tattoo markup and what Ariana Grande herself had to say, the $1 million offer for tattoo removal that she received and all of that. But first, I feel like we need to understand what exactly caused this to happen in the first place. Because on the surface, right, as an English speaker, it's not entirely clear to me. And when a cursory Google search informed me that the characters, this one and this one, together do mean like 7 wheels. It was 7 circles, 7 rounds, but 7 wheels was the translation that I found. I was even more confused because, well, that's not a small charcoal grill, but it's really quite simple what happens here. So I'm gonna walk you through my process of understanding. Basically, for one, this is the character for 7, and this is the character for wheel, is what I found. And so the two characters together should in fact translate roughly to at least 7 wheels, 7 rounds, 7 circles. Like I said, there are a couple different options, I guess. And so with that said, technically, Ariana's tattoo didn't entirely miss the mark. It still kind of said what she wanted, which didn't stop the whole intent from turning it into a laughing stock, but it did have some redeemable qualities at least. But okay, so I came across this whole debate about how incorrect exactly Ariana Grande's tattoo was, because it was a little bit up in the air. Like, some people were of the opinion that it was actually fine, and some people were like, Nah. And I did struggle to understand this to an extent, admittedly, because I don't let the Duolingo owl pressure me into taking language lessons. So this is just my understanding. What I gathered is that it turns out that these two characters that Ariana Grande used for her tattoo are shared by the Japanese kanji language and the Chinese Hanzi language. I'm really bad with my pronunciations. I looked up every single foreign word in this video. I promise you, I just am really bad at like emulating it with my mouth. So I'm gonna need a little bit of grace with my pronunciations when I attempt them. I'm so sorry. But specifically, I found a Reddit user that said all she would need to make it correct in Chinese would be to add a measure word in between. And I looked it up. A measure word is a word that is used to measure the quantity of a noun. In Chinese, I guess the words don't do it themselves. You've got to add a measure word specifically to tell it to do that. But still, in Japanese, this is what I understand anyway, the tattoo was still off by a mile, okay? Like, there was just no way that it said 7 rings. Everyone and their mother with any understanding of kanji was like, yeah, that's small charcoal grill tattooed on her hand. It's clear as day. It says small charcoal grill on there. Well, obviously, with the understanding of what the characters mean individually, you could still reach the conclusion. Say you're an Ariana Grande fan, you could be like, oh, she meant 7 rings, but that's not really what, upon initial read, you would perceive, I guess. And so, how did that happen? Because the reason that this whole misunderstanding went on in the first place is because the characters for 7 rounds in Japanese, for some reason, mean small charcoal grill. So I was like, how is there any correlation between those whatsoever? Like, where did this come from? And the answer is nobody really knows for certain. I know, mystery after mystery here. But there was a fan of Ariana's that shared this, and a couple other people did too, but this is just the one that I copied down. They said there are various theories about the origin of the word shichirin, but rin was an old unit of currency, and apparently you only needed about 7 rin worth of charcoal to use this type of grill. But then there was this Reddit user, they elaborated on the whole thing, and they said one problem with that popular explanation is that the kanji for coin is different from the kanji for wheel, loop, ring that is used in the term for the grill. The association is mainly phonetic. That doesn't mean it's wrong, merely that it's unproven and maybe unprovable, and it could be wrong. The reality is no one really knows for sure. It remains a mystery, but either way, shichirin is the word that putting together those two characters on Ariana Grande's palm forms. But Ariana Grande didn't know that, unfortunately. So the tattoo was a bit of a balls up. We have confirmed this. Now we move on to the fan reactions and the overall sort of internet response of this whole thing. And to open, I want to address a post from a fan page on Twitter. They went by @ArianaJapan, and they expressed, I guess, what you could say is some confusion over the whole incident, and I just thought it was hilarious. Basically, they shared a picture of Ariana's tattoo very shortly after it was announced, and they wrote, well, this is how it was translated into English, but this is what they wrote. It says, Ariana got another Japanese tattoo. This time, it's the kanji for shichirin. Ariana commented, everyone seems to think this isn't my hand, but it really is my hand. Maybe it's short for 7 rings as shichirin. She seems to love it. And the reason I found that so funny is because they were like trying to be supportive, but even as like a native or fluent speaker of the language, they couldn't really figure out how to be because they didn't understand what was going on. So they just settled for like, as long as she's happy. They were like, sure, she got small charcoal grill tattooed on the palm of her hand, but at least she loves it. Oh, it just cracks me up. To me, this whole mishap is just a glowing demonstration of why you should not get a tattoo in a language that you can't read. Some people even mess up the spelling of tattoos that they get done in their native language, so why invite a greater possibility of failure and regret by trying a different one? Just stick with what you know. Like, okay, I wore this shirt for this video because I don't know what this says. Every time I wear it out, I'm like, oh God, please don't tell me I'm walking around with a shirt that says like spoiled rotten milk on it or something, because like I just hope this means something good. I don't know. And I just like, this was a cheap shirt. I don't know if I'd take the same risk with something that was going to be permanently inked into my skin. I think I'd pass on that one. But Ariana Grande did. She did take that risk. Did she regret it? I'm not entirely sure, but the response by the public, it was loud. And people's amusement levels honestly were just off the charts, because Ariana Grande's hand said small charcoal grill. That is so funny. Like, so this was like a headlining event. Do you know what I mean? There were like news articles documenting Ariana Grande's blunder. Twitter users went mega viral cracking jokes and like theorizing about Ariana Grande's potential affinity for barbecue grills. They were like, she must love them. Someone even got a matching tattoo for clout. People are crazy. That will never come off. But then there was like a subsection of people that did not find so much humor in the situation. In fact, some found it to be culturally appropriate infuriating, attention-seeking, and just like a gross method of being edgy. Especially because Ariana Grande mentioned she was currently in her like black fishing era. She'd been accused of Asian fishing in the past, so not the greatest look for people who were following that narrative. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was a Reddit user, they wrote, now can she stop getting a pass for using Japanese as an aesthetic? And they followed that up. They said, of course it's okay to learn about the culture, but I can't find a single correlation between her music and Japanese culture. I get that she has a fan base out there, but she's also known worldwide. It's normal for artists to have regionally focused marketing, but it seems like she's trying to incorporate Japanese into her image and identity with no apparent reason other than to be different and edgy. And then there was a Twitter user that I saw that they spoke out. They said, Ariana using East Asian culture as part of her aesthetic without having A, any Asians in her Seven Rings music video, B, acknowledging the purpose of Japanese in her tweets and music promo, and C, ignoring this criticism when she is active on Twitter is very, very questionable to say the least. And then I came across another tweet that said, I've supported Ariana in the past, but between her continual use of Japanese culture as an accessory in this part of her career, plus brown face tan, I'm wary of supporting her now. But then on the flip side, when it came to the public response, a Reddit user shared the sentiment that in Japan, the reaction here has been mostly positive, with most dismissing it as a cute mistake. They said, I don't like the idea of ridiculing people who attempt to engage in cultural appreciation with good intentions. Part of embracing your own cultural heritage is to take advantage of the opportunities to educate people about it. And because this person specifically mentioned the response in Japan, I realized that this had reached Japan, and so I decided to take a closer look at the comments under that Japanese fan post that we spoke about. I kind of wanted to see if I could confirm the response that this Reddit user was claiming was consistent amongst the Japanese public or Japanese fans. I'm not sure how far this reached into the consciousness of the Japanese public, but from what I found, just small sample size, but I don't think that the Reddit user was being disingenuous when they said that the response was mostly positive. But similarly to the Western world, I found that people express a sort of mix of reactions, which you'd just expect when you survey a group of people. Like, it's not a shocking result, is it? But anyway, there were people that were just happy. Nothing could burst their bubble. For example, this person said, you love Japan, I love it. And another wrote, they said, it's even more exciting because it's in kanji, right? For Japanese Arianators, it's just overwhelmingly joyful. And these people, they seemingly didn't have a concern in the world about the finer details of the tattoo. They were pleased regardless, whether it said small charcoal grill or whether it said 7 rings, didn't bother them. And then some people found it funny. They were cracking jokes. Like, someone suggested that she get an accompanying tattoo. They said on the left hand, this grill,
shichirin.
on the right is summer fish, the ultimate autumn flavor fusion technique, because I guess that's a common thing to grill on the grill. And then another user, they shared an anecdote. They said, when I was riding on the Yamanote, I think that's how it was said, the Yamanote line in Tokyo,
Yamanote.
I saw an American tourist with a huge kitchen tattoo on their arm. And I nearly burst out laughing. Which, like, imagine seeing someone walking around with the word, like, tea towel tattooed on their wrist, and you like, ask them, why does your wrist say tea towel? And they're like, oh, I just liked how it looked. I have no idea what that says. Like, there is some humor there. It's funny. Because, like, why? Why would you do it? But others were not impressed at all. One user was like, did nobody know what this really said? And they still tattooed it. And then someone else said that generally tattoos aren't highly regarded in Japan, which you should know if you're into Japanese culture. A few people grilled Ariana on her, pun intended, by the way, they grilled Ariana on her choice in font. One of them compared it to getting an English tattoo in like a boring sans serif font. And then I found a Reddit user that shared essentially the same sentiment. They said, as someone who can read Chinese, these kinds of tattoos just look so awful. Imagine seeing an Asian guy with water tattooed on his hand in Times New Roman. So there was definitely some judgment there from some, not only for the wording of the tattoo, but also for the choice of aesthetic of the tattoo. So it seems like I said, when you survey a group of people, there's always going to be a mix of opinions. The response to this whole debacle, and you know, whether someone found it endearing or funny or not, it was very personal to them. Like, there were definitely two sides of the coin when it came to the reaction of the public here. There were some people that were like, this is hilarious and so stupid, and there were some people that were like, this is awful and disrespectful. And Ariana's response was one of both acceptance and like minor confusion, maybe, because Ariana Grande wrote she inserted herself into this online discourse around the small charcoal grill tattoo pretty quickly, and she kind of tried to explain her stance and how the whole thing happened, and she was just like radiating stress. She tweeted, "Indeed, I left out these characters, which should have gone in between. It hurt like fuck, and it still looks tight. I wouldn't have lasted one more symbol, Lamau, but this spot also peels a ton and won't last, so if I miss it enough, I'll suffer through the whole thing next time." And she continued to say, "It's 99% gonna go away," my tattoo artist said, "but I wanted to feel it, lol." He was like, "That's the most painful spot, for sure." And I was like, I'm curious. And luckily, I guess, because she was kind of stuck with the tattoo for the time being, Ariana did manage to find some humor in this situation. She added stuff like, that's how you end up with tiny grill/circle/tambourine on your hand. It's my favorite one now, so please leave me and my tambourine grill alone. Thank you. And also, huge fan of tiny barbecue grills onto the end of her, like, Twitter rants, I guess. So at least Ariana Grande could both recognize her mistake and acknowledge it, but also show appreciation for the cooking appliance that she was proudly representing on her palm. Great character trait to be able to do that. And I guess it is a good thing that she liked the way that her tattoo turned out, even though it was grammatically incorrect, because like I said, she was kind of stuck with it for a while. But I guess it's not like it would have bothered her anyway, considering the fact that she obviously couldn't tell what it said. Like, it looked perfectly convincing through the lens of an English speaker, so she could just like gaslight herself. That says 7 rings. It doesn't. But if she's telling herself that enough, she's gonna start to believe it. This is 7 rings. But that is something that I'd like to unpack. Why did Ariana get the tattoo in kanji in the first place if she clearly doesn't read it well enough to know that these characters together do not actually translate to mean 7 rings? And I ask that because, as far as I was aware before I started researching this, Ariana Grande didn't have any connection to Japan, and neither did The Sound of Music. And I don't think that 7 rings was particularly popular amongst Japanese fans. I don't think it like skyrocketed in Japan, which is fair, I guess, because who wants to listen to a song titled Small Charcoal Grill anyway? That sounds lame. Well, it turns out that, I didn't know this, but Ariana Grande had been incorporating some Japanese imagery into her aesthetic as of late in that sort of era in 2019. A critical onlooker wrote that the singer's album merchandise includes a crew neck that simply says "thank you" in Japanese and nothing else. And how weird is that? I wouldn't want to wear a crew neck that said "thank you" in English and nothing else. I feel like "thank you" would be enough. But jokes aside, the Japanese language wasn't only used in Ariana's promotional material, like her merchandise. In fact, in the 7 Rings music video, kanji reading 7 rings appears as a part of the title card. And it sounds like Ariana would have benefited from referencing that when she got her tattoo done, because this is correct. This actually says 7 rings. Nothing about a small charcoal grill to see here, folks. So then Ariana Grande was incorporating Japanese language and imagery into her work. But why? What are the reasons? Well, they seem to be very straightforward. In the end, it's kind of exactly what you'd expect. For one, it sounds to me like Ariana does have a decent amount of pull in the Japanese pop culture sphere as far as a Western artist is concerned. I don't really know anything about being a person living in Japan. I also don't know the language, so I couldn't really look into this, but she's performed in places like Tokyo. She's done some exclusive interviews in Japan, and she seems to be like reasonably popular overall, reasonably well known, or at least she was in the late 2010s. From what I could gather, it was the youths. The youths are particularly keen on her, and they liked how cute she was. They enjoyed the way her music sounded, and so she had some fans there. And so is there a chance that Ariana Grande was like recognizing that and sort of making an effort to cater to her Japanese fan base? Maybe. And then secondly, Ariana apparently loves Japan, adores it. I had no clue. But she's displayed a strong interest in Japanese culture for years, apparently. The food, the fashion, the whole lot, the language even, yeah. Basically, so I heard that after visiting the country for the second time, her second time being there in 2015, she actually hired a tutor. She hired a tutor named Ayumi Furia? And she did that because she wanted to learn the language. She wanted to be able to better connect with her Japanese fan base. So their first lesson, Ayumi and Ariana's first lesson together, it was conducted in person. Ariana provided tea and homemade cookies for Ayumi, and Ayumi thought that was very sweet and a down-to-earth thing to do. It kind of quelled her concerns about working with a celebrity because she said that she was actually quite nervous to do that. And then from there, Ariana went on to engage in lessons with Ayumi a few times each week throughout 2015. But eventually, Ariana wasn't like like huge in 2015, the way she became huge in the coming years. So her schedule just like, everything just stacked up and it got too packed. And so learning Japanese, I guess, fell to the bottom of Ariana's priority list. So at this point in 2019, where we are in our story, Ariana and Ayumi, they were still in communication, but Ariana would only partake in tutoring maybe once a year or so, which is not enough to make any sort of progress at all. So even though Ariana's initial intention was to learn the Japanese language, after 4 years, she'd barely learned the basics. She just hadn't dedicated the time to it. But that wasn't for a lack of interest, as far as Ayumi expressed. She said to the Cut that Japanese is not a common language in the world. It's not necessary for her to learn Japanese. She just really wants to. I appreciate that. It makes her Japanese fans so happy. And you can see that Ariana has participated in like a level of language learning, because there are a few videos that exist of her speaking Japanese. I can't comment on her pronunciation, but I have seen some Japanese speakers saying that like, yeah, she's cute, but a little bit hard to understand. So I'm guessing it could be better. I can't judge, but I'll insert some clips for you, or at least a clip, so that you can see what I'm talking about.
Can I just say like something else, like what I want to say? What I want to say?
Okay, this is the phrase of the day. 私の絶対領域はとてもセクシーです. My 絶対領域 is very sexy. So what does 絶対領域 mean? Actually, she explains it.
It means the space between my high sock and the hem of my skirt is very sexy.
So basically, this. I actually didn't remember what it meant when she said it, and when I finally remembered it, I was like, I see, you're a woman of culture as well.
Either way, it reads to me like Ariana's fan base in Japan are mostly welcoming of her attempts to speak their language, and it's maybe like a bit of an inside joke for them almost. Like in response to the tweet we read about, it was the Japanese fan page trying to support the girl tattoo. Someone tweeted underneath, they wrote, if this continues, I think that Ariana will get the kanji for
絶対領域
tattooed on her thigh soon, which is obviously, it's a jokey reference to the Jimmy Fallon interview. They linked it and everything. And so what's the verdict here? Well, it makes sense that Ariana Grande might have wanted to get a tattoo in the Japanese language. That didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't like she woke up one day or she sat down in the tattoo chair and she was like, I felt a sudden urge. But unfortunately, Ariana Grande did make two pretty major missteps when she decided to get that 7 rings tattoo in kanji. And the first is that she didn't ensure that she was advanced enough to utilize kanji. She hadn't actually gotten that far in her language learning journey at all. Ayumi said, I wasn't teaching her kanji yet because it's the furthest step, and she just did it anyway. But then the second misstep, I would say, is the fact that Ariana did not think to enlist the help of Ayumi, who she'd been working with and contact with for 4 years at that point, to guarantee, right, that her kanji was correct before she got it inked onto her skin. I know, like, hindsight is 2020. Ariana probably thought that it was going to be real simple, like, oh, well, duh, these two characters put together mean 7 rings, so I'll just get that done. And then it turned out to be a little more difficult than she expected. But was that avoidable? Yeah. It was. Now, Ayumi did share her perspective on this whole tattoo situation with The Cut, and she said, after the tattoo, many of my students told me about the news, so I started to text her. For 7 rings, you're supposed to have 3 kanji characters, but she only got 2, which makes sense because tattoos are painful. With 3 kanji characters, sometimes you can drop 1 character, but unfortunately, she had to have the middle character. And then Ariana, she shared a screenshot of this text back and forth that she was having with Ayumi, in which Ayumi casually dropped the bomb that Ariana had tattooed characters on her hand that mean 7 circle, or it could also mean Japanese barbecue grill, which is so funny to me. Like, it's so funny to me that something like that actually had to be seriously explained to someone, ever. What universe are we living in that that's a thing that's happened? But during this exchange, Ayumi inserted an extra character in between the other 2, and she shared that that would be more accurate to have tattooed because it would actually translate to 7-finger circle, I think it was, which I know sounds reminiscent of like the Spider-Man pointing meme, just with a few extra characters in English, but in Japanese it sounds like it does refer to 7 rings. But alas, there was simply no space for a character in between the 2 that were already marked on Ariana's palm. And so they devised a plan to correct Ariana's botched tattoo. The plan involved blacking out one of the characters and then continuing the phrase down Ariana's palm instead of going straight across. And then, you know, once that was sorted, they went along their merry ways, and Ariana was obviously, she was like, I'm gonna get this tattoo done. I'm sure Ayumi was sleeping peacefully at night knowing that she'd solved this big pop star issue, but Although Ariana and Ayumi had worked out this plan, Ariana strayed from it. I'm assuming because of the pain. I don't know what possessed her to do this, but she shared, okay, so update, right? She was like, I'll update my fans, and she shared this image to her Instagram story. It was alongside the caption, slightly better, thanks to my tutor for helping me fix, and to Kane N. Navasad for being a legend, and to my doctor for the lidocaine shots, no joke. R.I.P. Tiny Charcoal Grill, miss you, man. I actually really liked you. But I don't think that Tiny Charcoal Grill was gone, because visibly, instead of following through with blacking out one character and then rewriting the phrase down Ariana's palm, Ariana just added the extra character beneath the existing characters and just followed it up with a love heart. But may I remind you that the extra character translated to finger. And listen, I can't read kanji, but I have to assume that Ariana's attempt to make her tattoo read more accurately, it had to have backfired, because surely it's worse to just chuck the word finger onto the end of your small charcoal grill tattoo and hope for the best. When is adding finger to the end of anything an appropriate solution to a problem? Unless your problem is the fact that you've lost a finger and you need it stitched back on. I guess that's the only... I phrased that strangely, didn't I? But okay, despite my lack of knowledge on most things, including kanji, it seems that I was correct, because at first, right, okay, at least Ariana's tattoo kind of had like one intended meaning, which was the 7 wheels, 7 circles thing in Chinese, and one unintended meaning being the tiny charcoal grill, and that was just depending on how you read it, right? So there was plausible deniability there. Well, that had changed now, because shockingly, the combination of the characters for 7 and wheel, they still translated to small charcoal grill. So all that new painful tattooing session had gotten Ariana was literally just finger added to the end of it. Her tattoo now said small charcoal grill finger in Japanese. You can't make this up, man. It meant 7-wheeled finger in Chinese. You can't tell me that's even slightly better. It's got a love heart next to it. So I guess if Ariana's goal was to make both Japanese and Chinese speakers furrow their eyebrows when they noticed her palm tattoo, then she achieved it just fine. But if not, oh dear, better that is not. Better would have been, I think, to run with the small charcoal grill joke. Get like a fire emoji or a barbecue grill image tattooed next to the characters. This was not better. This was just a disaster. How was small charcoal grill finger any better? And so internet users and the media, they jumped on this, right? They made sure to point out that it was in fact worse, not better, worse. And as they were running wild with this tattoo saga, on the 2nd of February, TMZ released an article. It was entitled Ariana Grande offered $1 million deal for tattoo laser removal, which I was gonna say, I was like, I read it and I was like, that wouldn't be worth it anyway, because her palm tattoo is gonna naturally fade eventually. She literally said that. But then I stopped and I read the headline again, and I realized that getting paid $1 million to remove a tattoo that was going to fade anyway is actually a pretty good deal, so you might as well do it. I can imagine it would be very painful, especially in that particular spot, but it's for $1 million, so get some more lidocaine from your doctor, girlie. But anyway, this article by TMZ, it announced that a company called LaserAway had reached out to Ariana Grande in a letter, and this letter was filled with puns, but it also managed to read as, like, reasonably professional still, which is a talent that would get the golden buzzer from me. It's very entertaining, but this is what it reads. The letter opens, Dear Miss Grande and Mr. Braun, of course Scooter Braun, Ariana Grande's manager, they say, LaserAway is the nation's leader in laser tattoo removal, and we know Ariana Grande has been grilled over the meaning of her new tattoo. Luckily, mistakes can be lasered away by one of our trained clinicians so that she can start fresh with that 7 rings tattoo she intended. They go on to offer Ariana Grande a whole lot of lavish things to travel to their tattoo removal parlor, and then they end the letter by saying, LaserAway, the nation's leading aesthetic dermatology group, thinks that Miss Grande could influence people to be empowered to erase unwanted ink, just as she motivates us all with her killer singing voice. Thank you next, Tiny Barbecue Grill. Sincerely, Todd Hickman, President, LaserAway. Which, does that not sound like a sign-off of like a Despicable Me villain? Todd Hickman, President, LaserAway? Are you kidding me? But anyway, Ariana Grande's manager, Scooter Braun, he actually denied that they had received any such letter from LaserAway. Probably, I'm assuming, because Todd Hickman got distracted fighting Gru before he hit send. But he did respond. Scooter said this. He said, if they're willing to send me the offer, I'm sure I'd be happy to get a tattoo and then remove it real quick for 1.5 mil. Hopefully we can make this deal before her album comes out next week. Shameless plug. So yeah, awesome work, Scooter. Thanks for your input there. But after that, puns and all, I do think that the most iconic thing that came out of this letter that inspired the TMZ article was Ariana Grande's response to TMZ on Twitter. It's kind of gone down the history books for a number of pop culture fanatics. It's quotable, it's great, and it has a little backstory. So on the 31st of January, TMZ put out an article entitled Ariana Grande sued over God is a Woman music video, to which Ariana responded on Twitter. She said, "Who arraigned?" And TMZ, they replied in jest. They said, "Guess Japanese isn't the only language that's hard to master," to which Ariana Grande bit back, "Touché. I'd shake your hand right now if I could." Obviously it was too painful. But I must say, brave of her to attempt to speak French after all of this. Moving on though, 2 days later, Ariana Grande came across this news article that TMZ again had shared on Twitter. It said Ariana Grande offered $1 million deal for tattoo laser removal, and she responded. Again, this time she said, "I'll give you all $1 million to get off my nuts." And people ate that up and asked for seconds. They loved it. They said, "Thank you, Mama Grande." Except for this person. This person replied, "I love you, but this is so insensitive and you haven't apologized." And after reading that tweet, Ariana Grande genuinely kicked off. I think she'd just been fighting to like extinguish this fire that this whole debacle had set off on her Twitter page, and this was the final boss as far as she was concerned. She was like, "I'm getting this done now. I'm getting it all out of the way." And so she wrote, "I have actually, with a love heart, many a time. I also went back and got it fixed with the help of my tutor to be more accurate. I can't read or write kanji, obviously. What do you want me to do? It was done out of love and appreciation. What do you want me to say?" She continued, "You know how many people make this mistake and don't care because they just like how it looks? Bruh, I care so much. What would you like me to do or say? For real, there is a difference between appropriation and appreciation. My Japanese fans were always excited when I wrote in Japanese or wore Japanese sayings on my clothing. However, all of the merch with Japanese on it was taken down from my site. Not that anyone cared to notice." And Ariana closed off this rant by saying, "I have crippling anxiety. I don't like hurting people. People on this app really don't know how to be forgiving or gentle when someone makes an innocent mistake. No one considers feelings other than their own. It's very pointless. I don't even know why I'm talking about this anymore." And then she didn't have to anymore. She didn't have to talk about it because that was kind of the end as far as like public newsworthy Twitter debates about Ariana's small charcoal grill tattoo went. It was sort of over and done with then. Just sort of died down from there. The internet moved on to the next minor scandal that they could fixate on for a day or so. I'm just a few years behind, but I'll catch up eventually. So in the end, what I've gathered about this whole thing is that a lot of people considered that Ariana Grande didn't have poor intentions initially. I think that was the general consensus, although it did kind of rub people the wrong way when she implied that she didn't want to alter her tattoo for accuracy because it still looked tight, is what she said. Obviously, she did go back and get it altered, but I think the implication that she wasn't interested in doing it again because it still looks fine and it just hurt, and people, I think, were a bit turned off by that. In the end, my perspective, a mistake is a mistake. But I can't really comment because I'm not Japanese. I can't speak for, like, I wouldn't be offended about it, would I? So I don't think my opinion matters an awful lot. But as far as Ariana's tutor, Ayumi, was concerned, she said, "I guess Ariana was sad to hear many people making fun of her. She was considering lasering the second kanji to make room for the third character because she just did not have enough space to put the third character in the middle, but she put it on the bottom. I really liked her idea to use that position. I really like the art." And to follow, she shared this. She said, "I am so mad that many people are making fun of her. I don't want this to stop anyone from being motivated to learn another language." After Ariana posted on her Instagram with my name, many Japanese fans messaged me on Twitter and Instagram saying that they understood. "I came to America maybe 10 years ago and I don't speak English perfectly. If you study another language, you understand that people make mistakes. Japanese is the hardest language to learn if you speak English." I think that's a very gracious and very understanding viewpoint from Ayumi and from the fans in Japan that she mentioned, because I can imagine it must just be so frustrating at times to see people take this flippant interest in your language, in the sense that so many people make this poor choice of getting these foreign language tattoos because they think the characters look nice or whatever, but then their tattoos they just read as nonsense. They don't really say anything because these people can't be bothered to learn the language a little, or even to run it through Google Translate or past a fluent speaker to confirm that they're actually saying something meaningful in their tattoo. At that point you might as well just ask AI to generate an image with text in it, because they're going to have some gobbledygook that you could copy down if you think it looks cool and turn it into a tattoo for yourself instead of getting asshole tattooed on yourself in Japanese without even realizing. I don't know. I do think it's cool that Ayumi's approach is one of sort of patience and of encouraging people to undertake the necessary education to get a tattoo like that. Do you know what I mean? Or to learn a language that they're passionate about. I think that's very respectable, and I think it's probably the best way that she could have been a good influence and sort of a good spokesperson for the Japanese language, if you know what I mean, by being welcoming about it.
We really like it when celebrities make an effort to learn our language. I've heard that she was discouraged when people made fun of her shichirin tattoo because it's a type of barbecue grill. But I hope she will continue learning Japanese, and I'm pretty sure her Japanese fans will really appreciate it.
But Ariana Grande, you might remember, she kind of pointed out the fact that she got the tattoo on her palm with no real intention of committing to it. She wasn't sure if she was going to keep it. And there's an article on Vice that read, according to Grande, it doesn't matter too much because the tattoo is 99% going to go away. That was apparently told to her by her tattoo artist, Kane Navasad, who also did Ariana Grande's Pokemon tattoo earlier this month. Many tattoo artists warn that the palm and hand tattoos don't come with a guarantee. They're known to fade quickly since hands go through a lot of wear and tear. And so my final question, has Ariana Grande's tiny charcoal finger love heart tattoo faded? Well, into obscurity. Yes, nobody's talking about it anymore. I'm sure she's very glad about that. But as for an update on the longevity of the tattoo that Ariana Grande was told would probably fade in no time, it's been going strong for 6 years now. This photo is from February 2025. It's still there, clear as day. So moral of the story, what have we learned? Trust nobody, not even professionals. Although there is the possibility, of course, that she's been getting it like touched up every now and again. But either way, the moral of my story still stands. Trust nobody. End of story. But from my perspective, these past 6 years with the small charcoal grill finger love heart tattoo, they've really been a pleasure. Nobody that I've seen has been severely offended, and it's just been a bit of fun. Like, this was someone's Halloween costume one year. Great, right? Yeah. And its existence has also led people to sharing like their own crack-up stories, which I think is just great. I love hearing stories like these. For example, someone said, my friend at uni had the best messed up characters tattoo. She had a pet ferret and a pet raccoon. She decided to get ferret and raccoon and Mandarin characters tattooed on her feet in line with her flip-flop strap. She Googled the characters. She now has Fur Detective on her feet since 2003. And then another person shared their story. They said, this is hilarious. I knew someone in college who tried to get the Sanskrit word for mindfulness or something tattooed on her wrist, and she later learned that what she got just meant symbol, which is just brilliant. So these tattoo blunders, they aren't uncommon necessarily, but they never stop being a bit humorous. In my mind, they don't. They're so funny. Don't do it, but they're so funny. Even when Ariana Grande isn't involved, they're still fun stories. And with that said, that wraps up everything that I have come to know about Ariana Grande's tiny charcoal grill finger love heart tattoo. I hope you had a fun time exploring this because I really did. It's just one of those things that like has lived in the back of my mind for so long that it was really fun to pull it to the surface and figure out like what exactly was going on there. Because when I first started looking into it, I thought maybe like I was being trolled. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe it didn't actually mean tiny charcoal grill and I just didn't understand because I'm an English speaker and I just believed it at face value and it actually said 7 rings. I was like, now that would be a story. Wasn't the story, but it would have been a story. So yeah, it's very possible that, oh no, probably not the next time you see me. In about a week, we're moving into a house, which is a very, very exciting revelation. Very scary, very expensive. So yeah, we're going to be saying goodbye to this bedroom soon. But this duck is coming with me, don't worry. By the way, someone asked... Someone said, what's the story with the graduating duck? And it cracked me up when I realized what they meant. This is meant to be the scene where my fiance proposed to me at, and the duck was like, okay, so we recorded it. He was very sneaky. I didn't know what was going on, but we recorded it, and there was this duck quacking in the background. When he was showing the video to some of his sisters, they were like, what's going on? He was like, well, the duck is going to do something funny. So they were watching the corner of the screen looking out for the duck, and one of his sisters missed the proposal. It was like, there's nothing happening. Where's the duck? So they did a paint and sip, and my partner came home with this because he drew the duck in the scene. Honestly, if I got a tattoo, it would be the duck. I am notoriously not notoriously, fun fact, I'm terrified of getting a tattoo because I know I'll regret it. Like I know I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, because you can't get rid of it. If I could put it on and off when I wanted, then that's fine. But yeah, that's the story behind the graduating duck. Although they asked like, what degree does he have? I was like, I guess in distraction, but I don't know. What degree does this duck look like they have? I'd love to hear your feedback on that. But anyway, I've got to go. Listen to me procrastinating, killing time, instead of getting prepared to move, packing. Are you surprised I'm procrastinating? No, we're packed up and ready to go. It's fine. Anyway, I'm yapping. I'm sorry. I know that's the whole point of this channel is that I yap, but sometimes it's just a bit too much. So I am going to let you go. But I just want to say, I appreciate your time so much. I always appreciate you stopping by to hang out with me a little bit, revisit some old nostalgic, very niche memories. It's so fun. And I can't wait to bring you to our house and do it there as well. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey. And I will see you maybe in the next video, maybe not, but either way, I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. I hope you're doing well in life, and if not, I hope that changes. It will. And yeah, Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go. All right, bye. Bye.